Okay, I am live. I'll let a couple of more people get in. I don't know if the cyber demons, the cyber lords, the tech colluders are going to mess up the stream or not. I'm hoping that they won't. Usually the topics will usually trigger them, right? There you go. Giving me a hard time. Did y'all see that? As soon as I started talking about their asses, here they go. What's up, Bray? How are you, my friend? What's up, Tony? Happy Friday to you. Boy, I tell you, as soon as I get going, they start messing with my stuff. These little cyber lords are just ridiculous, just absolutely ridiculous. I wanted to have this conversation though, you guys, because y'all see what's going down in Canada. Y'all see what's going down in Canada. I mean, I never would have thought that I would live in a world like the world that we exist in today. I just never ever would have thought that I would live during an age of tyranny, like and not only just tyranny, looking at my neighbor from the north, it's tyranny that is being implemented in my country as well. So it is very, very shocking to see a lot of stuff that's going on. Awesome, you look fabulous is that the Tony Danza. No, that's Tony Danza, and I think we've all been in tyranny is upon us. It really is. And I want to touch on a few topics because I really think that when people talk about being woke and aware, it's like, I feel like these are just slogans if you don't really understand what you really necessarily need to be aware about. Okay. Because I think a lot of things that have been happening in the United States have been going on. A lot of the subversion that's been going on with the people has been going on for the last 30 years. So people, I mean, a lot of this great reset, a lot of this, planning and globalism that we're seeing right now, this has been years in the making. Like, I really hope people don't think that some people just decided to go to Davos and just come up with the great reset, right? No, you really had to plan this. I mean, and it really had to be a plan that had a strong psychological implementation where it would not have worked. And so we saw all of the divisive psychological mind games that they have been playing with people on people this entire excuse me, globally, this entire pandemic, right? Because you really cannot leverage people who have a strong founded psychology. And so what these people have done is they've leveraged the LGBTQ community, they've leveraged the Black community, they've leveraged all these struggle classes of people. They've leveraged their anxieties, their fears, their insecurities, all of these things against them to get them to buy into bullshit and buy into divisive rhetoric. So I want to talk about what's happening in Canada. This has been going on since early 90s. Yeah, I mean, this has been a slow subvertive process, and I think that we saw it go in full fledged with, in the 2000s when, we had the technology era where we became more socially connected and we all bought into being socially connected. But what we didn't realize is that we were relinquishing our character, in some cases, our biometrics. We were relinquishing our freedoms, and we were doing, as I want to say his name is Oedis Huxley said, where we have amused ourselves to death, meaning that we have amused ourselves buying into a lot of these new technologies, convenient ways of living. We have amused ourselves into almost relinquishing our freedoms without even thinking about it. So a lot of this has been going on for a long time. So when we look at our friendly neighbors in Canada, right? And we think about just the character and the mindset of Canadian people. Canadian people aren't revolutionaries per se. They don't just wake up all angry and ready to just go to war over something unless you are really piss testing them. And see, what Justin Trudeau is doing is he is, in a lot of these world governments, they're piss testing the people. They're piss testing the people's compliance. They're piss testing the people's patience. We're going to threaten your children. You know, I was reading a tweet where Canada is even threatening people's dogs. And I guess they will, I'm not sure if they're going to kill the dogs after 8 days if these people do not submit to their rulership and their compliance. And, you know, when I think about what a lot of these world governments are doing, you know, they're no different than the perpetrator in a Me Too situation, right? Because you are forcing people to take a solution that the data has proved has not only shown to have not had long-term effects, but now you're suggesting that people take about 4, possibly even more injections every year. They're not talking about the adverse effects. It's like if you are a financial advisor, you would never be able to sell a security like this vaccine has been sold. And you think about what, you know, the truckers are going through in Canada. You know, Canada didn't even have the issue like the United States where they had a hard time getting people to want to get vaccinated, right? That's not what they're saying. It's like a lot of these truckers in Canada actually have been vaccinated. But what they're tired of is people trying to control their every movement, their very livelihood. And I think, you know, when you hear all the messaging about this, and, you know, it just kind of drives me nuts because they're everything about right ringers and right this and then, and it's like almost like the more I see this stuff play out, the more I'm glad that I did not vote for Joe Biden, that I had no part in this. I had no part in this. And if you are over in Canada and you did not vote for Justin Trudeau, at least you have the peace of mind of knowing that you did not vote for this. But all of these Democratic yuppies that bought into emotional sensationalism, not rational rhetoric, not actual policies, just straight politics and emotionally irrational nonsense. This is on you. I wouldn't want to be a proud Biden voter right now. I really would not want to be a proud Biden voter. Just like I wouldn't want, if I was in Canada, to be a proud Trudeau voter, because you damn near voted for Stalin. And we give it up to the people that voted for Stalin and Mussolini. You guys are bravo. Bravo. If you voted for Trudeau and Biden, you voted for Stalin and Mussolini. You got us. Because that's basically, y'all got us. Y'all really did get it because y'all bought into bullshit. And now y'all got us into some bullshit as a nation. And the people that were actually against all this crazy stuff that y'all want to claim is racist and stuff, these are the very people out there fighting for your little sorry ass freedoms that you can't even take advantage of. I don't recall Trudeau commenting about public health being a priority when the trucker protests. I saw him say was the truckers are wrong. It's about power. That's it. He doesn't have it because he knows what he's doing has no rationality. He knows what he's doing has no rationality. Just like the United States Supreme Court determined that these vaccine mandates have no rationality, right? But they keep trying to piecemeal how this stuff is going to play out, right? Because at the end of the day, whether you're in Canada or the United States, we are all victims of fascism. And I really wish that people would stop talking about systemic racism and start talking about systemic fascism, because that is what's going on in this country. What they are doing is they are leveraging the insecurities, the historical insecurities, pangs, and transgressions of each of these little struggle insecurity groups. And they're trying to blame it on that to take the shit off of them. We are dealing with fascism globally. We are dealing with corporations and governments who have merged together against the people. This is about control. This is about control. And no matter how much these big corporations want to act like they care about people and they got the best interests of the people in their minds, they freaking don't. Because they are on the bandwagon of ignorance. Anytime your corporation, and I've said this before, will mandate you, force you to take a solution that has not been properly evaluated for the duration of time that it should be, and they don't want to talk about the adverse effects, right? But your company, who can fire you at will, is telling you that you need to take this vaccine. It's like, and the people that submitted to taking the vaccine at their company's request, you are the problem. You are the reason that fascism continues, because you keep complying. You keep complying. Every time you comply to something unreasonable that the government or a corporation tells you to do, you are the problem. Let me tell you something. On LinkedIn, I put my career on the freaking line. For the last 2 years, I was actually waiting for my company to fire me because I was just not going to hold back. It was like, if I'm not going to be involved with doublespeak, I'm not going to sit here and be on the bandwagon of ignorance, and I will sacrifice my job to not be. And it's like, and honestly, with corporate America, I am so turned off. And honestly, I just walked away from a big corporate job last week. I literally walked away for, like, honestly, I couldn't deal with all the corporate bullshit. I was already in my feelings and on the fence about just being in that space. But then it was just like a lot of the other things that were just added on to that. It was just like, I just don't want to deal with this shit. You know, it's like, if, you know, I care more about my mental health and my mental sagacity than I do just any of that. Like, the money will come. You pray to God, you making the right moves, the money will come. But your peace of mind is priceless. Your freedom is priceless. And when you start taking medical solutions because a company is dangling your job and your livelihood in front of your face, guess what? That corporation has too much power over you. And guess what? They wouldn't be nothing without you. The CEOs ain't about to push the line. The CEOs is not about to do the customer service. They're not about to do peon work. It's like every single scenario in this economy and what's happening in this country, it is a result of corporate and government fascism, not racism. Get your isms right. My wife just lost her job and I started a side hustle to avoid NYC bullshit. It's a damn shame that people can't get up every day, do something that they love without the fascist bullshit. Ugh, I lived in the city for years. I've never, you know, New York, I am turned off from New York. I am turned off to New York. If I never have to have business in New York, I wouldn't even be sad. I think that it's very smart for a lot of the corporations and the people that have any level of common sense to get out of there. Because Democrats, I'm telling you, these Democratic predominantly ran cities, they're not economically wise. And that's the problem. I don't want my political leader talking about my problems. I want my political leader talking about solutions and the economic viability of those solutions. but nobody is holding their representatives accountable for that. Nobody. Nobody. And and here's the thing, they got people distracted with all this other stuff. I'll be honest with you. I could give two shits about Hillary Clinton. Honestly, I really could. I don't care about Hillary Clinton, whether they lock her up or not. I don't care about Hillary Clinton. I think, she's going to suffer before the Lord, people like her. So I can't put too much energy on Hillary. All I wish is that she would not run for president, because most Black people did not like Hillary Clinton. They like Bill Clinton. And I think Hillary was trying to ride on the coattail of Bill, Miss Hot Sauce in her bag, Hillary Clinton, culturally appropriating as Hillary Clinton, right? Black people really weren't checking for Hillary like that. And like it here, and this is the world we live in, where people live behind the guise of people that people are not checking for anymore, right? It's crazy. Nobody, honestly, I don't doubt. I have no doubt in my mind, and I'm not saying this definitively because I don't know. I have no doubt in my mind that Hillary was on some sneaky shit during the Trump campaign and even after. I have no doubt in my mind. Okay. There are too many slimy, sneak shift politicians on both sides of the aisle for me to just believe that Hillary Clinton is just this so upstanding country gal standing by her cheating man or whatever, that she did not do some of these things, right? Just like I have a hard time believing that Joe Biden is clueless about Russia. Joe Biden is not clueless about Russia. Like, I personally feel like Russia got the jump on Biden. Russia got the jump on Biden. He got the jump on his one living son. And that's why Biden and they're all scrambling, trying to look diplomatic, but really they looking like they getting punked. They looking like they getting punked 360 by Russia, because Vladimir Putin is just like, you're weak, you're frail, and your motherfucking son is compromised. You and your son. So you gonna play ball how I want you to play. And this is the stupidity, because they were trying to make it seem like that Russia stuff, it was all like just, hoax. It was a hoax. But I really personally believe that the Democrats were the ones really colluding with Russia and China. That's why our supply chain we still in bed with these volatile nations, right? How the hell you gonna say somebody, like, can somebody make this make sense to me? If China is, this global competitor, how the hell do they have like damn near half of our supply chain? Like, half of our stuff is being made there. Like, I don't get it. Like, would you give like your competitor that much of your business if you just thought they were that much of a competition? It's all by design. Supposedly people in Ukraine would rather be a part of Russia. Who knows? I mean, the Democrats, they go on their little crusades. We saw what they did to Gaddafi. So who knows? Who knows? Who knows? But I want to talk about freezing, right? Because obviously the Canadian government is, Justin Trudeau right now is like an individual with, I said it earlier, 4 aces on the table. You playing Texas Hold'em. 4 aces on the table, right? 5th card is a king. And he been bluffing this whole damn time with a 2 and a 3 in his hand, right? And then all of a sudden, you do that last check, and the person that actually got a king in their hand, right? He go all in, right? Because he got his cards can go all in. But then Trudeau, with his 2 and his 3, he got to show that, I'm not a bad bluffer. So he goes all in. And that is what Justin Trudeau and a lot of these globalist planners, they're going all in, right? So at this point, you think about it, the world's richest people own half of the world's economy, right? So they got enough money, expendable cash to play with the people. I call it, this is like a simulated Squid Games. That's what it is. It's like a and I've never seen Squid Games, but I've been looking around and seeing clips of the plot. It's like a simulated Squid Games, a divide and conquer strategy. All the while, the people who are claiming to be your champions, claiming to care about you, these are the very ones orchestrating the bullshit. And that's what's happening in Canada. That is what's happening in the United States. That is what's happening everywhere. And I want, and I'm only speaking to, I'm speaking to the ethnic group that I'm a part of right now, but Black people really need to wake up. They really need to wake up, because what they're doing is they are leveraging our past pains and transgressions, recycled rhetoric, recycled Black faces, recycled scenarios to get into our feelings and buy into these world government changes. Now, I'm glad Black people were smart enough with the whole vaccine to say, nah, I don't want to take it. And that's what their problem is. That's where they're, look at the pharmaceutical companies' numbers. Money talks. Money talks. Their stocks are dropping. They did not meet their goals. So this whole great reset shit is falling apart because they did not manipulate people good enough. And when you get business and political entities coming together with these bright idea schemes, then they start falling apart. And I actually kind of like that part, because then that's when people start finger pointing and stuff. And then, they start singing like canaries and stuff. And then you get to see who the real schemers are, right? But that's basically what it is. Mussolini is quoted as saying, what did he say? Fascism should be rightly called corporatism, as it is the merger of corporate and government powers, right? So when you get your local Democrat that want to sit there and capitalize on the fact that you transgender, or you this gender, or you this or that, or whatever, just understand that they are leveraging your insecurity to mask over the fact that they are fascists. Your government our governments, world governments are fascists. Our corporations are fascists. And I've had a really hard time, as I've been kind of entertaining, working at different other firms and different companies. I've had a really hard time knowing where I want to work. So forget a company even having a vaccine mandate. There's just a bunch of companies that I would never want to work, because I feel like they're part of this fascist bullshit that continues to not be in the best interest of the American people, but of that top 1% that these Democrats keep talking about they can't stand. That's what it is. When we have a structure of capitalism, which isn't a bad system, but when you have a structure of capitalism where you have people that are so rich, and we're supposed to be an antitrust nation, but these people are so rich that they can pay off these government officials to make sure that they keep little people down. That's what's going on in the country. So before you start buying into recycled rhetoric about racism and Black this and Black that, Black people have had their civil rights. Civil rights have been fought for and won. Black people need to be fighting for better education so that they understand concepts like fascism, and that they can recognize the difference between when your government is perpetuating racism, systemic racism, or systemic fascism. Aren't Blacks inherently conservative? I think most people are inherently conservative. There's just some fundamental things about conservative ideology to just make sense, and it really isn't a political ideology, which I constantly tell people. It's not, conservatism is not about being a Republican. Many conservatives are Republican because obviously they have economic mindset, and supposedly Republicans are for lower taxes because they're not for a bunch of subsidies, right? So I think most people are traditionally conservative, but when you start talking about party affiliation, party politicking, that's when you really, get the ignorance of people of not understanding kind of what your values are versus your political beliefs and stands. I'm so glad people are starting to see the truth. They want us divided so that the corporations can take over. Dave Chappelle said it best: as far as politicians and corporations, it's all about incentives. Of course. Of course, anytime you want to give somebody an Xbox for taking a damn vaccine, bitch, you out of your mind. Think about it. The vaccines don't even cost as much as a Xbox. So what really are you incentivizing? You're incentivizing that person to relinquish their freedom to you. And you want to see how weak that person is. If I dangle this carrot, your livelihood or something that you may like in front of you, will you buy in and give me a piece of something very valuable to you? The most valuable thing that a man possesses is his freedom. That is that we are hunters and gatherers by nature, and that is why really in nature it's the survival of the fittest, because weak animals do not survive in nature. And this is true of humans, like I said before, only the strong survive. One hand washes the other, just like a Bill Gates. He has no business being involved in government, and yet Bill Gates got enough money to be involved in government. And that's the whole thing. I find, like, when I think about Bill Gates, he may be like, see, and the thing is, people think that when you do nice things, it compensates for all the evil shit that you doing undercover, and it don't. But people like Bill Gates have a complete disconnect from that. And so do a lot of other technology giants who are not programmed to care about people. They are programmed to care about bottom lines and what they can get people to relinquish of themselves to them or their technology. Big difference between conservatives and Republicans. Honestly, I don't even rock with Republicans most time. There are only a few Republicans that I have respect for. Senator John Kennedy is one of them. He's one of my favorite Republicans. He's just straightforward, honest. He's smart. He's practical. I like Jim Jordan. He seems to be very passionate about this country and making sure that it doesn't fall under just these socialist ideas. And when they talk about people paying their fair share, and they always want to make this a tax thing. No, what's people paying their fair share is big corporations not trying to use every strategy they can to keep little people from rising up. If you really want to give people their fair share, stop incentivizing lazy ass people to stay at home while working ass people have to front their lifestyle. Like, where on the planet of logic is, this mindset of fair share, but coddle people who don't want to do anything? And I don't want to just say it's people that don't want to do anything and they're lazy. These are people who have been robbed of opportunity because we have an education system that is so inequitable. Now, you want to talk about equity, making things somewhat equitable, start in the education system. If the conversation does not start at the education system, you can shut up. You can shut up. Because racism is not the problem when it comes to the education system at all. Because you have enough people in Congress making laws where they can say, okay, I don't care how, like, the one disparity, we believe in capitalism, we believe in people working for what they need, blah, blah, blah. But the one disparity that we will never have in this country is in the education system. We will never have anybody walk into any U.S. public school, taxpayer school, and see a disparity. And until that stops, every other conversation about racism and systemic racism can stop for me. I'm not even hearing that shit because you're deflecting from the root cause. They are intentionally making people stupid. They are intentionally putting these activist teachers who don't know much of shit. And can we please start being honest? Teachers are not the smartest people on the freaking planet. They're not even close. They're not. No disrespect to anybody who has a spouse or a mate, they're a teacher, but teachers are educators. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but anybody from the private sector can leave the private sector and become a teacher. Most teachers cannot leave the education centre and go into the private sector and make it. So let's stop making these people smarter than what they really are. And let's stop saying that parents have no right to have a say in their kids' education when most of these parents are a lot smarter than their kids' teachers. And that's just the bottom line. Most parents are smarter than their kids' teachers, especially if they are professional working parents. Most educators, teachers, I don't know, kindergarten, whatever, they're they go to site. You see, when I start hitting them real points, and more people start joining the stream, then they start hitting me up. I don't even know if I still got my mic. Let me see, because they really love messing with me. But I'm just being honest. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody's spouse, or if you are a teacher, but teachers are not the smartest people on the planet. They're not even close. I despise the teachers union. You and me both. I worry for my kids' future. My son goes to, let me get that back, because I feel that energy, because I am definitely a concerned parent myself. Derek, I feel you. I am worried about my kid's future. My son goes to a Metro Nashville school. Every kid got the same grade. They all compared, and even the smartest kid in the class got the same grade as the rest. That's why the Asians are all upset. That's why the Asians are so upset, because instead of recognizing that every child learns and has the capability of learning at a different level, these teachers are being lazy. They don't want to adopt their strategies. They don't want to have specialized classes, because the specialized classes make the kids who don't have the capability of learning as quickly feel some kind of way. And really, it doesn't have to be like that. Why would you dumb down naturally smart kids so that they can feel on the same level of kids who are not as smart? Like, who intelligently thought that that was a good idea? You know, and it, like, if you have, I took honors and AP classes, and I was able to hang with the curriculum. It was a college style course because I was smart enough to do it. And it was an option for me to do it. It's an option for you to do it. You explore the option if you meet the option requirements. If your kid isn't a genius, that's not that parent's kid's fault. That's not their kid's fault. You got to do better as a parent. But the education system is trash. It's garbage. Irrational people who have, right? Because let's not act like the teachers unions and these educators are not funded by the government and corporations. Like, so you know we got fascism all the way up in this country. Let's just stop playing with this. Stop talking about racism. It's fascism. You know, and it's crazy because you have these Antifa people and they talking about racism and all that stuff. And then I'm like, do you even know what fascism is? Some of these people from Antifa didn't even know what fascism was. They were just a part of something because they're losers and insecure. And I'm not trying to be mean, but we got to really start being honest in society again. There are winners in society and there are losers in society. There really are. And these factors of society is because of a variety of different things. Some people were born in cycles of poverty. Some people were born in cycles of poverty, neglect, all kinds of situation that has inhibited them from being able to mentally aspire in an environment that called for it. So you mean to tell me that you got these broken kids, right? Of no fault of their own, right? And they have, learning challenges because of the emotional things they're dealing with. You mean to tell me that we got to bring these smart kids that are not dealing with that on the same level as them? Educators should be ashamed of themselves. 100. And if you mess with me, like if I had the power, there would be, if you want to get rid of the pension problem and all this pension, how we going to pay for pensions, I wouldn't even worry about, I would have some of the K-12 workforce as full-time teachers, qualified full-time teachers, and then I would do adjunct because they're doing that anyways. How many of y'all kids' school have multiple substitute teachers? They don't have enough qualified teacher, and that's why they got piercings, and they were like, we want to create an environment of inclusion, but that really they're just trying to make an activist feel better about themselves and also give them access to your kids. You can thank Jimmy Carter for the whole education mess. Democrats love thinking they're helping, but they destroy stuff slowly but surely. We've been homeschooling for 6 years. Good for you, Wendy. And you're probably, I'm sorry, not Wendy. I'm sorry, Worden. Good for you, because I mean, here's the thing: homeschooling, if you can afford it, if you have the lifestyle to do it, do it. But homeschooling is just not a luxury for everybody. And a lot of people have to put their kids through the public school system because they can't afford any other option. But that's where those parents have to be very involved parents, right? You cannot leave your kids to the school system. You have to ask them, what did you learn? Did you learn anything weird? Did they try to put something in your head? You really have to drill your kids on what some of these crazy, deviant are teaching our kids, because you have academics right now, academics at the collegiate level, who are trying to figure out a way to normalize the conversation of pedophiles, how to include them in society. So you got all these practices, all these so-called and experts who are trying to incorporate deviant behaviors in civil society. That is what they're doing. What's going on, Paul? See that CRT is nothing more than a white supremacy doctrine. The white independence doctrine. It is nothing more than that, presented in a colorful way. Critical race theory is a form of psychological subversion. It is a psychological strategy to maintain racism in modern American society. If I have a white friend, right? If I'm a little kid, right? And we're playing on the playground, I'm playing Sarah, she's black, she's white, I'm black. We're oblivious to the fact that, we know we look different. Kids aren't stupid, right? They know they look different, but they don't care about those things. Most kids hone in on what makes them the same. And what these teachers are doing is trying to make them zero in on the things that make them different. Because everybody knows, you take a kid who has not been adulterated with racism from some grown up, they are not thinking about the same divisive things as other kids, as grown-ups are, but what they want to do is infiltrate kids' minds with this stuff. If a white kid asks another black kid, why is your mom's skin darker than yours? That is not a microaggression. But let Disney go and tell the kids it's a microaggression. I saw this clip of the little girl the boy, you know, the little black boy get dropped off by his mom, who I believe is lighter or darker than lighter than him. Little white boy asks, "Oh, I didn't know that was your mom. She's so much lighter than you." Then here come a little black girl just flying out of nowhere, talk about something. That's a microaggression, and it's like, what? Like, I mean, first of all, kids are curious about these things. They're little kids, right? They're gonna be curious about each other's color, right? And you hear this little girl flying out into song, talk about you don't have to take that. That's a microaggression. It's like, first of all, you're a little hyper, little Kendra. Maybe you need to ask your mom why you so hype squad about race, right? Because that's what they basically teaching the kids. Be hype squad about race. As soon as you hear another kid inquire, "Oh, why is your braid like that?" That's a microaggression. Her hair is beautiful. I never said her hair wasn't beautiful. I just asked why. It's like these people want to turn these kids out. They just want to turn them out into racists. I don't know what microaggression is. Microaggression is this little liberal term. I'll tell you what microaggression is to me. It's really liberal white male, liberal white men, liberal some, and I won't say all because I don't want to generalize all liberal white men, but many liberal white men are they are the ones who have microaggression. And I'll tell you why. You know, as a Black conservative woman, I push out a lot of content on LinkedIn, the professional network. Whether you agree with me or not, I think that there's a way to agree and disagree. These liberal men, you can tell that they're not intelligent and they're hyper emotional, and they are the masters of microaggression because they will come lodging insults. They will even say little threatening things to you. I had a man tell me, I got to read this to y'all because I do not kid. Now, I just posted a funny meme, you know, on my profile about, you know, the craziness is going on in Canada right now. And it was a picture of Xi from China calling Vladimir Putin from Russia, saying like, "Bro, are you seeing this?" Right? And it was like a little bro moment between the dictators, and you got Justin Trudeau at the top, right? So I'm thinking it's funny. It's like, hey, if the world is going to shit, I mean, what are you going to do? Cry? You know, sometimes you got to laugh to keep from crying. So I'm like, you know, I thought it was funny, and so I posted it, right? And then this guy comes, right? And the first thing he does is accuse me of being a China-Russia sympathizer, right? Like, this is a very, very, very funny meme. That's all that it is, right? But this guy works at Amazon, right? So now I'm really having a disconnect. Like, how are you going to call me a China-Russia sympathizer when your ass work at Amazon? How many people can buy products from Amazon without it being made in China if it doesn't say made in the USA? Not I. My kids' trampoline, made in China. All kinds of stuff that I've gotten from Amazon, predominantly when I look at who it's made, China made it. So you can't tell somebody you can't call somebody a China sympathizer if you're working at Amazon. I just want to give that news flash. But he was all upset because he thought he was saying something brilliant. And then when I cut into his feelings, and I'm really professional when I cut into people, because it's like, look, this is LinkedIn. I don't want to be I don't want to put myself out of element. I don't want to make myself seem out of element. So, hey, so I'll respond to people, but you gonna look stupid. You will look stupid. You will not come to my content with stupid and walk out any other way but stupid. Especially if I'm voicing my opinion and you get triggered by something that you can't believe, and you got to be rude instead of just scrolling your ass on. You definitely gonna get the business, and it's gonna look professional, but you gonna look stupid. That's how I roll over there. All right, I don't even know. Let's see. A lot of people like her. Glad she's back on. She's sporadic. I have been sporadic. I'm so sorry, Tony. You outed me. I'm catching up with you guys. But jacked Amazon Prime to $14.99. Yeah, Amazon is an interesting business model. That's like a huge monopoly. Like our country is supposed to have antitrust laws, but I feel like they're just like a suggestion. Like I feel like a lot of the laws in this country, the Constitution, everything that we've known to keep us civil and keep us together as a nation over the years have become suggestions. Like that's how I feel. Everything. But this guy tells me, and see, I want to tell liberal white men something. Liberal white men should not argue with black conservative women. Okay? Liberal white men should not argue with black conservative women because their microaggressions really shine through. It really comes out. I mean, it comes out. And what liberal white men do not realize is that when you want to convince other white men who are not racist that they are racist, and then you go back and forth with a black conservative woman about why she should feel about herself the way that you do, and that and a lot of these liberal white men, they hate black conservatives. A lot of these liberal whites, period, they hate black conservatives because we take their virtue away. These people are virtue signalers, okay? Most of these people are riddled with insecurities. I mean, look at all these colorful people, like all this stuff like that. Let me tell you something. And I have a nose ring and I have tattoos, and I didn't do this because I wanted to make a statement to somebody else. I didn't even get a tattoo until I was like in my late 20s, and it was just something I wanted to do. These are just things I wanted to do for me, not to show off. These people are virtue signalers, right? So this guy, after going back and forth with him, he tells me, right? And this is where, liberal white men reveal themselves. He goes, and he is a senior engagement manager at Amazon. So this is who Amazon got engaging their people. He says, because I told him, I was like, if you're a Democrat, I can understand why you are invested in my oppression, right? So he goes, quote, if you're a Democrat, lady, you're in way over your head. Why don't you take a second, think about why you are an African American, I'm sorry, think about why you as an African American believe in the Bible. Your ancestors are turning over in their graves. You took the religion of the slave owners. Silly, silly, right? So this is a virtuous liberal white man that can tell a modern American black woman about what her ancestors are doing because she's not thinking the way that he thinks that she should be thinking, right? So when you want to talk about the real white supremacists, right, we really need to take a close look at the liberal side of the house a lot more, right? All this party switching ideology, let me tell you people, there are racists on both the Democrat and the Republican side, okay? There are racists grandfathered in politicians in both the Congress and Senate. And let me tell you something. They got some racist tendencies. They got some racist tendencies on both sides, right? So please don't think because you run into a Democratic virtue signaler that person does not have racist tendencies. Because it's not until a black person comes who's probably doing much better in life than that liberal, sad, insane white person who just needs the black struggle to hold on to, right? Because let's just be honest. There are a lot of blacks in this country that are doing better than other ethnic groups, just like there are a lot of ethnic groups that are doing better than blacks, right? The economic disparity in this country does not boil down to the color of your skin per se, because there's poverty line whites and there's poverty line individuals of other groups. Mexicans, I gotta give my Mexican brothers and sisters some love in America too. But y'all got y'all own people talking about y'all problems. Y'all know they exploiting black people, so my bad. But Mexicans, there's people of all ethnic groups that are born into cycles of poverty, and there are people who all ethnic groups who have made their way out of cycles of poverty, and we need to be realistic about that, right? So getting back to Canada, because I wanted to talk about this too, they are freezing these people's accounts, right? They're freezing these people's accounts. Now, what does that tell you? What does that tell you? That fascism is definitely alive and well in these global in these global elitists. Because how is it that Canada can go to a bank and say, hey, this person donated to a cause that we don't like, so we want you to freeze their damn bank account, right? And we got to think about this, because we got a truckers convoy in America that's popping off soon, right? We have a truckers convoy that is popping off in America. I think they're supposed to be, did they take off yet? Did the U.S. truckers convoy already take off yet? Or are they about to in a couple of, we're about to have the same scenario in America, because people are tired of these corporations and these governments controlling their lives. And it's and a lot of these corporations, they're doing this to their customers. I would never want to be a customer of an institution that could literally, I have trusted you with my livelihood, and at the government snap of their finger, you could rob me of my livelihood. I mean, look at what Canada did to their fundraisers. They stole their money. They stole their money and claimed that they were giving it to charities. No, you gave it to people, probably businesses, that lost money every day that convoy is existing. And it's at what point do we realize that this may not be the price of doing business? When do you think Trudeau is going to realize that your Castro, your Mussolini, your Stalin-like behaviors is going to cost money? And we're supposed to be recovering from a pandemic. Do anybody have time or money to be dealing with protests that are stopping commerce? No. I saw that somebody said that's Castro's biological son. He does look like him. And I saw this picture, this video of Trudeau's mom hanging out a lot in Cuba. She had all this, she seemed like she was just enamored with Castro. And then I'm looking at Castro's younger pictures and I'm like, yeah, that could be her baby daddy. Justin could be calling him dad for sure. For sure. But I wanted to just talk about that because, here's the thing. We got a lot of stuff, as regular people, we have to realize that this is a straight up attack on the middle class. This is a straight up attack on individuals who could rise to future wealth. These individuals are trying to concentrate wealth and privilege in a very small percentage of this population. And that is why some of these people are even obsessed with population control. That's why you have Democrats that are okay with aborting a baby up to the day that it is due. This is the evil and this is the sinister type of individuals that are running our country today, both corporate and government. You have corporations who are still laying off, firing people because they would not submit to taking a vaccine mandate. or taking a vaccine. And it's like, Pfizer does not make my household enough money for me to care about their bottom line. They just don't. They just don't. Further, even if Pfizer make my household money, Pfizer has no right, Moderna has no right. None of these corporations have a right, especially when you have been previously sued for products that you have convinced people to take. And then the government, like, anybody thinking about like the conflicts of interest in some of this stuff too, which is really why I do not want to take their vaccine. I mean, I'm actually thinking about Novavax. It looks like they have gotten some approvals, so I'm just going to look at Novavax. It hasn't been politicized at all, and I'm definitely considering that vaccine. And it just depends on which pathogen that it's covering, but I don't want to have anything to do with any of the approved vaccines that have been put on the market, because their CEOs have politicized. They have been part of the politicization. The CDC, the NIH, the government, they have all made this vaccine about politics and compliance and not cyber demons. Soon as we start talking about that real stuff, they know this ain't about public health. They know this is not about public health. This is about getting that Davos agenda, that great reset. And you know what's weird? If you know the Bible, if you're an actual Christian and you read your Bible, you know that the Davos agenda is really just, to me, the agenda of the Antichrist. And like in all of this, as I sit back, and I know I'm kind of cynical sometimes, and I try to raise the alarm as much as I can, but in all of this, you got to know that these are things that have been foretold in the Revelation. I mean, if you know your Bible, I mean, Revelation chapter 13, I mean, it's on point with everything that is going on. And all I'm sitting up here, and I know this, like, it's some scary times, it's stressful and everything like that. I'm like, who's the Antichrist? And because it can't be like here's the thing: the Antichrist can't be any of the usual suspects that we see today, like that we come to know. Like, it has to be somebody completely new, because if you read in the Bible, the Antichrist is going to be somebody that the whole world loves, right? It has to be somebody that the whole world loves. And that's why it's like, when I be thinking about the sign of the times right now, it's like, it's not, I used to think that Barack Obama was going to be the Antichrist, but the way that so many people started not liking Obama and started kind of being awakening to just even that Obama motto, it's like, well, nope, it can't be Obama, right? Who do you guys think the Antichrist is going to be? Because really the Revelation talks about, all of this one world government is eventually, there's going to be one world leader, right? It's going to be one world leader. So I'm always like speculating, like, who's going to be the Antichrist? It's not going to be Trudeau. We know that Trudeau is out. He can't be the Antichrist. People hate him too much. People hate him too much. It has to be somebody that people absolutely love, like everybody worldwide. And I often thought that Trump was the Antichrist. Like, and I'm still on the mindset that Donald Trump, if he gets reelected, might be the Antichrist. And I'm sorry if you're a Trump supporter, but the Antichrist has specific characteristics. This person is going to be revered. They're going to be revered. So I'm waiting to see, as all of this crazy globalism stuff kind of comes together, who's going to be the Antichrist. It's all about power and money. You're absolutely right, Ray. It's all about power and money. Power and money. They don't care about respect. They do not care about respect. They don't care if the people respect them. They don't care if the people love them. That's why I was telling people, do you understand why in American company, the work experience of the modern American is not the same as it was before, where people were working at companies for 20 plus years. They were working at companies for a long time. They felt some sense of value, right? Because the corporate fascism, the greed, I think at certain periods of time in this country was not as prominent, or there were individuals within the government structure that were trying to get a hold on it. But when you get past a lot of these errors in American history where finances, and we have our financial institutions and all these things, banking, everything like that, now you start seeing more control, the more and more people buying into aspects of the system, right? We buy into the system, right? Now the system is set up where, the only way you can buy out of this system is if you have net worth. The only way that you can actually buy out of this system is either you create a people that you pick that will be able to live off the grid with you. And I've been thinking about that too, because I'm like, shoot, the earth is free, really. It really is free. If there's available land that nobody is occupying, you should be able to settle in that land, build your legacy in your land, and not have anybody mess with you on that land. There's enough land in this earth for people to be able to be landowners, right? But this system does not want people to be landowners. It doesn't even want them to be property owners. It wants them to be renters, damn near indentured servants. That's how the system is set up for everyday people, whether you're black or white or whatever in between. You are an indentured servant. It is set up for you to be that way. You rely on the government and entities for your energy, for your groceries, right? I mean, they even got regulations around people growing their own food. Why would you have regulations around somebody planting some seeds and growing their own shit? Because they want you buying into the system, buying into this food that the FDA is just letting motherfuckers bring into the country without really having too many checkpoints. It's like a lot of the major institutions in this country cannot be trusted. And what a shame. What a shame. And if the US follows Canada and starts freezing people's bank accounts and assets, then that is when you are absolutely going to know for sure that there is absolutely no institution left in this country to trust. You can't trust the FBI. I mean, you can't trust the FBI. You can't trust the Department of Justice, because most of our institutions have been brainwashed and conditioned to go after the American citizens or the citizens of their nations as enemies. That's what I truly believe. Like our army is not woke. The army just didn't become woke. No, they've been conditioned for a while. And I'll tell you, they have attracted a lot of beta males into the army. Beta men. I wouldn't be surprised if the US Army was completely, like mostly, I would say maybe 70% beta men. Beta men with some layer of insecurity or psychological trauma where really that's the last place they should be. But I feel like these emotional people are being capitalized on. These poverty line people, they're being capitalized on, and they're being used as soldiers to a cause that does not benefit them at all. And that day is coming. All of the money out of the bank, jump on the Harley and just leave. Have zero debt. Don't need a debt or credit card anymore. Here's the thing. I mean, when all is said and done, I'm sure everybody's going to have zero debt if everything collapses the way some people are fearing. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen institutionally, with the financial institutions. I just think that, you know, you just need to know how to survive. That's all I can say. I bought a whole bunch of seeds. I bought a tent. I mean, and even I bought like just a handsaw, just some little things that have a solar charge, that if I needed to just go somewhere, try to build or establish some kind of living, I could do that. You know what I mean? And I'm all down for a utopia. Like I'm just like, I want to be off. There's this community in California that's like that, where they have no government assistance. They are just completely off the grid. They take care of each other. They have this one lady who had all these books, so she's like the local library and stuff. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm down for that. I am down for being away from, the systemic influences of fascism, right? And it got to be a place warm. Obviously, these people are doing it in California so they can obviously mitigate their energy costs. But when your energy is basically nature, and you're living off the land like men were supposed to do, cultivating the land, putting in into maintaining their home, growing their food. This is the natural state of men. Like it is not natural for us to be so reliant on other men for our livelihood that when they say, go get that jab in your arm, that we would be that submissive. So I hope everybody have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Friday. Have a wonderful, wonderful Friday. And like I said, this Canada is the beginning. What goes down with the outcome of Canada is ultimately going to dictate what happens in other Western countries. So I don't care if you're Black, white, Puerto Rican, or Haitian. You need to stop letting people leverage your insecurities, your past pains and transgressions, and you really need to start waking up to the fact that this is much bigger than those things. This is much bigger than these things. We're really getting ready to be under a level of control that many of us probably would not have even fathomed. I could never have fathomed that the world would be in the state that it is right now. Like I wouldn't have never have fathomed it. Like honestly, I want the America, that I had when I was growing up. And maybe I don't want the America I had when I was growing up because maybe I was not as aware and conscious, right, as a kid, right? So I was oblivious. I was living life while all these devastating things was happening to the country, within the government and an economy. And I was oblivious to those things. Now that I'm awake and I'm aware, so I want everybody to just be awake and aware and kind of understand what is happening to you and what is happening to us beyond these sensational arguments, right? And that's it. I think that was all that I had. Really quickly, I heard this lawyer talking about Wendy Williams, the talk show host, and she was talking to her audience, and she was talking about Wells Fargo recently freezing Wendy Williams' account, right? And she's like, she can have access to her statements, and she was saying like all these things, like Wendy Williams is being victimized. Now I do not know the circumstance in which Wells Fargo made their decision to freeze Wendy Williams' account. Okay. But I will tell you that, I'm a financial advisor by, at least right now, my trade. I don't know if I want to stay in the advisory game, but I will tell you that if you have your assets in a brokerage account. And if the firm has an indication, if your advisor has an indication that you may have some psychological issues, that there may be some signs of dementia, instability, they are allowed to put a 2-week freeze on your assets, meaning that and during that time period, it allows the firm to investigate, if there is an emergency contact person. And that's why if you do have brokerage accounts, it's always just better to just go ahead and plug that beneficiary or that emergency contact on the account when you open it. That way you kind of avoid a lot of things, and power of attorneys as well. If you have if you feel talking about anyways, if you just feel like, you get diagnosed with a deterioration, you don't want to, put yourself in a position where your brokerage firm is going to have to freeze your assets because they don't know what's going on with you, and they want to protect, what you have. So I don't know if that is the situation with Wendy Williams and Wells Fargo, where they put the freeze on her assets because Wendy was displaying signs of dementia, or there was some maybe activity on the account that was of concern to the advisor. But, just so people do know that that is not an unusual situation at all, and especially when you're dealing with people who do have maybe some mental health problems or history of it, or even elderly people. That is not normal it's not unusual for a brokerage house to protect that client by putting a freeze on their assets until they're able to have the appropriate person aligned with helping manage that account. And that freezing is, you do not have access to that account until they're able to go through the necessary process within that 2 weeks to see if anything is of concern. So have a wonderful night. Thank you so much, Ray. Thank you so much, Tony. What's up, Mr. Chris 78? I'm done for the dystopia at this point. Seems like fun. It's I always said that I would get everything that I wanted. I have this clear vision of myself, and I know this is gonna sound really like weird, but I've always had this reoccurring vision of myself, and I'm standing in front. I'm not sure if it's like a office building, but I'm more so leaning towards it's a home that I purchased, and it's a multi-level home, so that the top floor has all these windows where you can just see beautiful scenery and woods. And so I can almost see the top of these trees, but I can also see just the sky and everything in the back. And I'm sitting there, and I have this sort of level of peace of mind. And maybe it's peace or oneness with God, that I've done everything I could to at least make as many people aware of the times that we're living in, or if I just had the satisfaction that I've done enough. But I have that feeling, and so I'm not sure if I'm going to be one of the persons saved, because in that moment, I'm also like, I'm seeing fire come from the heavens. I see it. I see a lot of just sort of heavenly imagery, but I do remember seeing fire. And I see this fire sort of almost as a buildup coming towards me in this window. And in that moment, it was, I always vision myself, with the people that I love, like everybody that I love, it is around me. And it's just a peace of mind that it's like, okay, if this is the end, I'm going to have everybody I love around me. So, but it's a weird vision, because I'm in this nice situation, and I'm very, very polished in this vision, and the world's going to shit. And for some reason, ever since I was in college, I've always said that I'll always get what I want, everything I want when the world is going to shit. So who knows? That was just my little story time. But I hope everybody has a good weekend. I hope this was a beneficial and engaging chat for you. Thank you so much to people who have joined recently and people who have not seen. I know I'm sporadic. Tony, you outed me. Man, but I really love you guys, and thank you so much for your support. And I'll catch you on the network next one. And if you're on LinkedIn, hit me up and send me a message and let me know if there's a podcast or a topic that you want me to cover. And I don't know if anybody's camera shy, but I do have the option of adding people into the stream. So if you're not camera shy and you want to kind of get on camera and kind of hash out some of these conversations, we could do that. Like, so if you're down with that, let me know. And I will put a link in our chat. And if you have a webcam and you have a camera and you want to just shoot the shit and talk, then we can talk about some topics and engage. So until then, have a wonderful evening, and I will talk to you later. Bye.